Hello friends, welcome back to your own YouTube channel Achievers Data Engineering. My name is Gyanendra and this is part 9 of Azure Data Factory tutorial series. In this video, we are going to discuss about how to monitor the Azure Data Factory pipelines that we have created. So let's get started. Alright guys, so monitoring Azure Data Factory pipelines on Azure Data Factory Studio is fairly easy. We have a monitor tab. Under monitor tab, we have got all the options through which we can monitor and explore all the resources that we are utilizing within Azure Data Factory. So starting with the dashboard, here dashboard, we will be able to see the high level details across our Azure Data Factory, like how many pipelines were run, how many activities got run, and how many triggers got executed. Now, one thing to observe here, all the details or the high level details that we are able to see, they are part of trigger pipelines, not the debug mode. So I'll just talk about that in just few seconds. So if you remember, when we were discussing and we were creating our first pipeline, then I told that there are two ways through which we can execute a pipeline. One was the debug mode and another was the trigger. In same order, we have two tabs here. One is trigger mode and one is debug mode. So depending upon the way a particular pipeline was executed, we will be able to see it here in its specialized tab. Now on the dashboard, all the details that we are seeing, it's only for the trigger pipelines. Now coming back to the pipeline runs, here anytime whatever pipelines that we have ran, we can open it and we will be able to see it as is. So let's say our pipeline had 3-4 more activities and it was aligned in the proper order, then we will be able to see them in the similar fashion over here. Now while we are opening this, we have all the details here in the bottom. When this particular pipeline run or particular activity execution got started, how much time it took, and what was the integration runtime used. So right now we only have Azure Auto Resolve integration runtime. In our upcoming videos, let's say once we will create few more integration runtime, then we will be able to see which integration runtime was utilized to run a particular activity. And anyway, we are having some IDs also that we can use further in our upcoming videos. Now, we also have one details tab, icon here. We can click on it. Using this icon, we will be able to track what was the amount of data read and how much data was written. And similarly, how many rows were read by the system and how many rows were written. What was the copy duration, what was the throughput, like the transfer rate, and some other high level details we will be able to track. Now if I close this window, we can also see the input details and the output details. If I click on here, then it will see the input data details. What was the file name? If I show the high level details, it will show all the column names of our input file. And similarly, if I close this and go into the output, it will show us all details. What was the again integration runtime, then where we copied the data. For example, it was Azure Blob Storage located in Central India. What was the status, total data integration runtime units used, and some other high level details in this JSON format we will be able to see. Now talking about some other details, let's assume there were few more activities in here. For instance, let me just go back onto the author page and I'll just add, let's say, one activity. Let's add a lookup activity. I'll just add it here, and let's say I'm just going to do something random so that it will error out. Don't worry about the details. I'm going to talk about this lookup activity in our upcoming videos. So I'll say select star from test, and then I'll just go ahead and debug. Now when I'm doing this debug, then as I mentioned, this debug is meant for executing a pipeline during the development. Now I haven't published it, but I'm still able to execute it. However, at this point of time, if I will trigger a particular pipeline, then it will execute only the portion which was already published, and it will only trigger that portion and it will run the pipeline. So let's wait for few seconds while it is executing the pipeline. All right, pipeline got executed and it got failed as I intended, because I purposely mentioned the wrong table name. So what I will do, I'll just go ahead and publish this as is, and I'll just show you what I want to show you guys. So this, just wait for a few more seconds while it is publishing. Okay, so pipeline published successfully. Now what we can do is, I'll just go ahead and trigger this pipeline, trigger now, and say okay. Now what was the reason of error? We know we can go ahead and click on this particular error message box, and here we can read the message. It says a database operation failed with the following error: invalid object name test. Now because I mentioned in the this lookup activity to select star from test. Now there is no test table I have created so far in the database, so it was not able to find that object and it got errored out. Now I have published this pipeline as is and ran it. So let's assume you created a pipeline and there was an error, and you triggered the pipeline and there was an error. And what you can do now, so let's go into the monitor tab. If we go under the trigger, let me just refresh it. All right, I just refreshed and now we are able to see that particular instance that I ran and it got failed. So if I open this now you can see here in the monitor tab under this pipeline run details, I'm able to see all those details by the activity. So first it ran in the same order. It first ran copy activity, it got executed successfully. By going into this detail, we can see all the details, and then it executed this lookup activity and it got failed. Now let's assume we read the error, we fixed it, and now we want to execute this pipeline only from this activity. We don't want this activity to run again. So what we can do is, there are two options. Once what we can do is, we can click on this rerun option, and under that we have got an option that says rerun from the failed activity. So assuming that we have fixed the issue, we can click on this rerun from the failed activity. Then Azure Data Factory will automatically rerun this pipeline from this activity and skip this particular step. Alternatively, what we can do is, we can select a particular activity and then we can say rerun from the selected activity. So we can start the execution from that selected activity, and any activity prior to that will be skipped. However, it is necessary that all the activities should be connected. If you are talking about some free activities, like there's no relationship or there's no sequencing, then it will execute all the activities. So this thing is to kept in mind. Now moving towards the next option that says trigger runs. So similar to pipelines, whatever triggers are being executed, so the triggers are invoking the pipelines, but trigger are itself, they need to be executed, right? So their execution can be tracked here. So in this particular tab, we are seeing all the triggers. If we want to see only schedule trigger, we can click here for tumbling window, storage events, and custom events. All those different kind of triggers can be tracked in a different tabs. Now I'm going to skip this option. It is still in preview. Talking about integration runtime. Integration runtime, as I mentioned, we only have Azure Auto Resolve integration runtime. In future, once we will create few more integration runtime, then we will be able to see those list of integration runtimes here, and we can track their status. Same goes with data flows. Once we will create data flows, we will be able to track them here. Now talking about alerts and metrics. So here in this particular window, we can create some alerts. Now alerts I'm not going to cover in this video. Let's talk about metrics. Now if I click on this metrics, then it will navigate us to a new window. Let me select my account. Now on to this particular window, let's wait for a few more seconds. It will show all the options, like different kind of resources available within Azure, to which we can create through which we can track metrics of different resources within Azure Data Factory. It is nothing but the monitor. Now what we can do here at this stage, I'll continue to click on this metrics. I'll just click on view. And over here, I'll just go ahead and select a particular resource type. So in this scenario, what we are talking about our data factory. So let me just type factory. Come on. Okay, factory. Search item. Okay, here we go. I can select this Azure Data Factory and let me just click apply. Now, based on the Azure Data Factory that I have, let me, for example, say, let's select succeeded pipeline run matrix. Now, based on our Azure Data Factory, we have a lot of metrics which we can select, and based on that we can define some aggregation that we want. So let me say max sum itself and select a time range, let's say last 30 days. So based on whatever data is available so far, it will be it will show us a graph. It's kind of a similar kind of graph that we were able to see on the dashboard page. However, it's pre-created versus what we can do here. We can create and customize a lot of filters. We can show it in a line chart view versus different type of charts there. We can drill into logs, we can create new alerts, and we can do a whole lot of customization over here. So that is all about alerts and metrics, and it's all about monitoring the pipelines that we have created within Azure Data Factory. Now, one important thing, if I go back to the pipeline runs, anytime you can click on this particular filter icon. However, there's one limitation, that we can only go back to the last 45 days. If we want to see any pipeline which was ran earlier than 45 days from today, then we won't be able to track that. Now, if there is a requirement or a business need where we want to continue to retain the history, then we will have to implement any other services which are available within Azure. For example, logs or monitor itself. With help of these services, we will be able to track the logs and store it some other places, for example on the blob storage. All right guys, I hope you like the content and it was helpful to know how to track the pipelines created within Azure Data Factory. So if you like the content, please hit the like button and do subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay up to date on any latest video that I upload. Thank you for watching. Keep learning. Have a great day.